Hey, how's it going? I'm Adam and welcome to my channel. During my film photography journey, I was lucky enough to shoot with a bunch of amazing cameras, like the fan favorite, the Leica M6, the beautiful and great Nikon F3, and the uncrowned king of 35mm cameras, the Leica R8. But that wouldn't be possible if one day I didn't went to my local pawn shop and picked up this tank for about $30, the Zenit TTL. If you live outside of Poland, or even Europe, you are probably unaware of this camera. This is the type of camera that your grandparents usually give you when they find out you're into film, or you find it in the attic covered with dust, hoping one day that it will see the light. Yeah, sadly no passed down Leica cameras in this part of the region. It's an old Soviet camera made by KMZ, and it was produced from the late 70s to the mid 80s. For today's video, now that I sorta know what I'm doing with the camera, just barely, I figured why not revisit this camera and answer the question, does gear really matter? So I started this photo walk by ordering coffee and eating chocolate cake. You know, cause muffins are for cowards. I loaded some Kodak XX in my camera, and right off the bat, I messed up. You have to set the film counter manually, and I forgot. So I'll just be counting in my head, you know, until I forget like 5 minutes later.
Hi, I'm MJ, and I'm back with Michael Scott Paper Company.
Yeah, this is definitely not the best viewfinder around, that's for sure. The viewfinder isn't the best. It's dark and I would struggle with focusing, as you can see by this photo. Looks like I'm finally true to the name of this channel. Oh yeah. The shutter sound isn't as sexy though. So immediately coming from shooting with the Nikon F3, this viewfinder is a huge downgrade. Now I personally don't need glasses, but I would still struggle with focusing. So if you do wear glasses, F11 is your friend. Also, another thing that really tripped me out was the coverage that this viewfinder gives. It's about 60% I think. For example, this was the composition and this was what I saw. Yeah, that definitely sucked. I noticed that when you wind to the next frame, your thumb has to go more around than my other 35mm cameras. It's minor, but as a person who tries to avoid work as much as possible, my thumb was definitely sore afterwards. Gotta take the lens cap off, as all professionals do. Okay, I really can't focus with this. I'm not sure if I'm in focus. So let's hope the high f-stop saves me. 60. Is that a digital camera? I won't lie, I'm 10 shots in, I think, and the 60% of coverage is definitely tripping me out. And another thing, once you half press the shutter, it sort of darkens, so that's another downside. I honestly don't know if I'm in focus. The Zenit was known to be one of the cheapest cameras around, and they were able to do this by having a screw mount lens and having a manual frame counter. The Zenit is a fully mechanical camera except for the light meter. Here's where you put the battery for it, but sadly mine doesn't work. I personally don't mind not having a built-in light meter in my medium format cameras, cause it's a slower process and less frames, but when it comes to my 35mm cameras, it's a must for me. It just makes it an easier process and I'm able to capture moments quickly. Now, the shutter speed is a bit limited. You have 1/30th, 1/60th, 1/125th, 1/250th, and 1/500th of a second. Oh, and of course bulb. Here's where you change the ISO. It goes from 16 to 500. Cause you know, who could actually afford to shoot Portrait 800 anyway? And on the front you have a self timer. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a simple and basic camera, but you know what they say, the best photographers are forged in... Yeah, I don't know what they say. I took the shot. I'm alive. Oh yeah. I think I just inhaled this old Russian dust that was in this camera.
Oh.
I really wanted to do some portraits to show off the wide appeal of the Helios lens on this camera, but with the lack of a higher shutter speed, shooting at a low f-stop is Tom Cruise. Mission impossible. Now the Zenit is an M42 mount and I personally have the Helios lens. A lot of people are a huge fan and a lot of people just find it gimmicky. If you want to achieve sort of like that close-up look like in the movie Poor Things, you know, that tornado style bokeh, then this would be the lens to use. Here are some shots from my first ever roll. It's a cool look for sure, but I feel like I would be bored with it after a while. Overall, the lens is okay. It's pretty sharp in the middle, but the sides can be a bit smudgy. But it isn't too bad once you stop down. Also, I wouldn't put in color film. It could result with less contrast, less saturation, and possible color shifts. But the good thing about M42 lenses is that there are a bunch of them and they are actually affordable. So you don't have to break the bank just to switch focal lengths. This could have been a cool photo, but sadly it's a bit underexposed. To think, back in the day, people would take photos on slide film with ease without a light meter. Maybe my neighbor was right and my generation is soft. Or probably just me. Yeah, definitely me. I mean, look at me. I look like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
I realized that your head and camera combo says nice Zenit.
I like this photo of Matthew. It has nice contrast, good lighting, and it's even in focus. So one thing that you gotta know about this camera, cause I for sure didn't when I first started out, is how to rewind the film. Now there is no button on the bottom to unlock it, but instead underneath the shutter, you gotta press in the silver rim and then you could rewind the film as you normally would. My first roll, the lab unloaded it for me, but the second time I did it myself and I tore the film, which is too bad because it had some of my best work. Believe me, it was award-winning worthy. Now sadly some of my friends also met the same fate. Don't be like us. With this information, be better. Anyway, with a couple of frames left, I think, I was really getting into the groove and actually getting used to the camera and enjoying myself. Here's my favorite photo off the roll. It's simple and the composition is good and the two ladies walking by is what makes the photo. And that's the end of the roll and the video. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. So, does gear really matter? Yes and no. This camera may be very limited with its shutter speed and annoying viewfinder, but you are still able to take images with it. And I actually came home with some that I actually like. I have always been a firm believer in what makes a good photo is the emotion in the image. Nobody's really looking at edge-to-edge sharpness, maybe other photographers. What really brings a viewer in is the subject in the photo. So it is really up to you to make a meaningful photo, not the gear. Now, in the ways that gear is kind of important, you know, besides high-paying jobs, is well a functional light meter, a viewfinder that shows you the full composition, and it is easier to focus. So basically making your job a whole lot easier. cause the camera shouldn't really get in the way of you taking photos, and sadly with the Zenit, it did slow me down and it caused me to miss some opportunities. But hey, for $30, it did what it was supposed to do. Now, if it's a good or bad photo, well, that's up to you and me. Now, I may not use this camera at all, but I am forever grateful that it introduced me to the world of film photography, and it did help me learn how to take images. So yeah, like, subscribe, you know, do all that jazz. Take care. I will cut it out.